In this demonstration, we're going to show you how to work with nested flows. So over here we have a page, and you can see that under the page we have an area for flows. Okay, so under a flow we can have a subflow, and we're going to create a new subflow called business cards, which creates a page for this one. Now this subflow is going to be included in this page, and to do that we're going to use a flow container that we position on the page. Once we add a flow container in the page properties, we can set the default subflow that would be there. And you can already see there's the flow that we just created and a flow that was there from before. So we're going to choose the business cards flow. And then if we go back into the UI, we can pick up our new subflow, click on the page in there, and it would pop up in our visual editor. The surrounding area is something you can't drag things into, that's kind of the template, but you can drag items and place them inside the flow container. In this case we're placing one text field and another text field right next to it. So the scenario here, by the way, is we have an employee onboarding system, and we're building a little system that allows them, or a little flow that allows them to order business cards. Okay. If we don't like this layout, we can of course change it. Let's open here the page structure, which is now, by the way, dynamic, so you can actually drag things directly into it. We'll drag a form and place it inside this grid row, and then move the various labels and fields into this form. So this is one nice way for you to work and modify your layout directly from the page structure. It's something we introduced a couple of versions back. Right, so now we have a nice layout here. We can also drag and drop a button that would allow us to move, for example, to a next step in our flow. Okay. So again, the subflow is a complete flow. So if we go back and look at it, we'll be able to create another page inside this flow. So inside this subflow, we now have one page, the start page, and let's create another page and give it a name. So for example, page 2. And then we can design that page. Again, we're designing it in the context of the page in which it is contained, and in this place we just put one button. It's just for demo, call it placeholder, and here's our flow. If we now run our application, okay, we just need to add one more navigation. So actually the first button on the first page of the flow needs to navigate to the second page of the flow. Okay, so we'll go over here and add a navigation to page 2. Alright. So now we're ready to run our application, and when it comes up in the browser, we'll see our main page with the subflow inside it, and we can click on the button in the subflow to navigate in the pages in the flow, all in the context of the containing page. Alright. So this was one of the flows that we created. Now we can go over and modify the second flow. So we have another flow called order a computer. If we double click on this one and we'll open it, you'll see it's being opened in the same page context, and again with the same flow container where we can drag and drop items into it to design the user interface of this flow. So in this flow we're just going to let people choose what type of computer they want to have when they join the company. So let's add a couple of options here. So we'll do a PC and we'll do a Mac, and we can also do a laptop. So this would be our second flow. Again, this is just for a demo, so we're not going through the whole process of creating the variables and things like that. It's just to show you how the UI behave. Alright. So now that we have the second flow, one other thing we might want to do is add some navigations that would allow us to switch between the flows. So we are going back to the containing page, the main page, and we're going to drop a couple of buttons on this page. Okay, so one button will invoke the cards flow, and the other button will invoke the computers flow. Okay. And now we need to actually do something when we press the button. So when we click on the cards, for example, we would have an event, and in this event we're going to use a navigate operation. So there's a little bug in the current version I'm using where navigating to a flow in the current page doesn't work here. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a navigation to a page, and then I'm going to actually go and in the metadata, basically the JSON file that describes the section chain, I'm going to switch it from navigating to this page called main start. We're going to navigate directly to the cards flow. Okay, so to do that we can simply put in the name of the subflow. In our case it's called business cards, and then the name of the page in this subflow, so the business cards start page. Right, so now we have a button that navigates to this specific flow, the cards flow. What we want to do next is just we'll switch our page to show by default in the container. We're going to set the settings to show by default the other flow, the computer flow. So now if we run the application, initially the page comes up showing us the computer flow over here, and we can choose values. When we click the cards, we switch to the other flow in the same area, and again we can fill out values and navigate through the flow. And that's subflows.